You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, we're in finger-pointing mode, I guess, here in Toronto after the season pretty much dead to rights. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, beautiful Leafs Morning Take mug, Thursday edition, presented by Bet365. You see the latest, Rosie? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I got questions about watching TV this morning. Everyone talking about the Sens making a run. If you play 6:30 hockey, you're gonna make a run for the playoffs. They're in the exact same position as the Maple Leafs, and apparently their season's like on course for the playoffs, and ours is completely imploded. I don't know how I make that make sense. Apparently their goaltending situation's figured out. I don't know, big win against the Avalanche last night, but I don't get the difference in opinion on the two markets, if you're asking me.
Ironically enough, this comes after a victory against the Colorado Avalanche, which effectively ended the Maple Leaf season. But you're so right, dude. I want to put my head through the fucking TV last night watching the broadcast, and they do a great job. But, like, they're in the exact same position. I'm sorry to alert everybody in Ottawa. You're done, too. You're in denial, okay? You think, Linus Ullmark's their backup right now, and James Reimer has the game of his life, and he calls it a special victory after the game. Like, give me a break, okay? It was a nice win. I think Colorado looks kind of bored, waiting for the Stanley Cup playoffs, waiting for the Olympic break. But you're so right. There's like a cluster of teams, and I think for the first time maybe this season, a bit of separation in the Eastern Conference standings, right? Like teams like Washington, New Jersey, the Leafs, Ottawa, even Florida, 6 points back. They got a big one against the St. Louis Blues tonight. A lot of teams in trouble right now, Rosie.
Yeah, man, it's funny. I mean, that Montreal team, they're coming up, and to see, what the Islanders have been doing in Boston, I think, you go back to the deadline, it's not that long ago. Everyone's like, oh man, they're selling, they're retooling, kind of rebuilding, people are saying, and they're sitting in a wild card spot. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. What do I even, Washington, Jersey, New York, just bottom feeders of this, looking for that wild card. But yeah, it came so hot and heavy. It was coming for a while during that homestand, but it was like officially over there after that weekend. And then now all the talk is, what do you do and where do you go? But apparently things are different in Ottawa. It's a bit of a head scratcher, but yeah, things are starting to take shape. And I imagine during that All-Star or that Olympic break, you'll see a fairly clear picture, and then there'll be one more sprint after the Olympic break and the trade deadline for teams to kind of jostle for those last positions. And I don't know, man, it's just sickening that we are still in January and we are not even talking about the playoffs. Like they're I don't know, like, again, I got to check Vegas and see, like, what are the special magical thing that would have to happen for the Leafs to get in. And it wouldn't surprise me if they went on some kind of bit of a run and started clawing around and had some murmurs about it. But I think the hill is far too steep for the Leafs and for the Sens. But I guess I'm in the minority on that.
I'll preface in saying I do not believe in this team. I don't think they're going to the Stanley Cup playoffs. They have 29 games left. They have 57 points. So let's say they go 20-9. That gets them 40 points. That gets them to 97 points. That's the magic number, 96, 97, 98. There's no accurate science behind it. But I just think there's too many teams to chase in the standings. There's too many games. You're playing every other day. It's just like you have to – it's the end of the season. I just don't view it. Like, I think there's a possibility that one team that we're talking about right now, whether it's a Washington or a Jersey, that goes on a crazy run. I just don't think it's going to be the Maple Leafs. And I think to your point about the standings, I give more potential and opportunity for teams in the Atlantic, or excuse me, teams in the Metro than the Atlantic. You have teams like Pittsburgh and the Islanders, as you talked about, in a playoff spot. And that's why I think there's some beacon of hope, if you call it that, with teams like Philadelphia, Columbus, even like New Jersey. Sounds like they might buy, and they're a point behind the Maple Leafs. It's all perspective. I think it's all narrative controlled too. People love to feed the engine that is the market of Toronto. But, to the greater point of the show today, I know a lot of people tagged this in Jonas Siegel's article. Like I guess we're in finger pointing mode where we're trying to figure out like, okay, we woke up from this malaise. What the hell happened with this team? And now the fingers pointed at the sports science team, the doctors, and apparently Keith Pelly, like most new people do when new bosses come in, they clean house and build their own sort of party. And I guess he fired and canned a bunch of people last summer. So you're telling me that, maybe if this person or these people were still with the team, then they could have prevented the lacerated kidney for Dakota Joshua. Because last time I checked, not to make a joke of all this, which I probably will anyways, but half the league is injured right now, Rosie. I mean, it's part of the deal as an NHL player, I think.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's great to have the scientific doctorate degree people in the kinesiology, sports medicine, physiotherapy, athletic therapist. All that stuff is awesome to have. But to me, it's like when you're injured, they're great to have. They're good at diagnosing. They're good at the treatments. Yes. They get you all the resources. They can get you into the buildings and the specialists. You're not preventing injuries out there on the ice. These guys, like the science has been there a long time. These guys do all the preventative measures. They're on the supplements. They do the things they need to do. Inevitably, your body can't be put in certain positions over and over again. You're not going to prevent like the lacerated kidney. I mean, that's hilarious. You think having a doctor, some guy with a degree in that room is going to prevent what happened to Tanev this year or Stolars or any of the other things that have happened? Do you think Nylander's playing right now if you don't fire those guys last year? I think that's kind of laughable. But big time finger pointing mode happening right now. And it's just funny. I mean, we have a couple, we roll around the idea of like, do you make a big change in this? Are our leaders, are our stars, the ones that are going to get you to the promised land? And some people are all on board and other people just freak out. And it's just what this market is. Lots of passion, lots of opinions, and people get pretty fired up. And right now, I think a lot of Leafs fans are pissed off. And they're pissed off at certain takes. We're taking heat for all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to spitball all kinds of things when the Leafs have had the season that they've had and they're sitting in the position they are right now in January.
I don't understand the backlash to what you're talking about, proposing the potential of making a blockbuster deal. We talked about this yesterday. We both believe, not to speak for you, that everything should be on the table. I don't understand the backlash when it's been a decade. Like, we're not talking about 3 years or 4 years. It's been a decade. Rosie, at this point, you know what Austin Matthews is. You know what Willie Nylander is. You sure as hell know what Morgan Riley is. You know what John Tavares is. So from that point of view, I don't understand why there's like backlash. Like, why would you keep taking the Brendan Shanahan approach? Maybe this year they'll figure it out. No, they're going to be the same guys in the Stanley Cup playoffs. If there's one thing I can learn from this latest rut, it's that it's the same team, right? We talked about it yesterday. We're so excited, man. This is a different group. Crazy chemistry. I haven't seen this from this team before. It's the same guys. At the end of the day, it's the same guys have been leading this team for the last 10 years.
And I am worried about, just retooling around the same core. And okay, let's move Nick Robertson and let's move Bobby McMahon and let's move Scott Lawton. Okay, for who? And you're just plunking those pieces in there. Those guys have all been pretty good through a lot of points in the season this year. Fine, get some different guys in there. And then what's different? What's going to change? Do you have a stud D-man, or is it the same kind of D-core that we're going to go with? What if our goaltenders don't play like they did last year, next year, and we're just doing the same damn thing over? Like, I can't handle wasting time like that. And people, online are saying, oh, you guys love the negativity. This is for sound bites and clickbait and clicks. And they love it when there's turmoil. You think we love where the Leafs are? Do you know what it's like? Like, what am I supposed to say about this game tonight with the Seattle Kraken going for a wild card spot and the Leafs? Like, you talk about having no motivation before on a 5-game homestand when your season's, up for grabs from absolute disaster in their lives, or you make the playoffs and anything can happen. They didn't have any heartbeat going there. What the hell is this team going to look like for the rest of the season? I have no idea. They're so weird that maybe they'll turn it on and play inspiring hockey for some goddamn reason now that the pressure's off. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. But the point is, I can't stand this. I loved it last year when we're leading the Atlantic. I love talking about resting this guy and resting that guy and who's going to be our playoff opponent. You go into Toronto, you feel the buzz of the playoffs, doing watch parties, getting behind the team. I had some raw moments about get behind this goddamn team and support them. It's not every day you got a team that's leading your division and has a chance and is considered a contender. I love that shit. This is awful. So anyone thinking that we like what's going on and we're throwing out opinions and comments and throwing ideas around just to rile it up and get clicks, like, give your head a shake, man. We do this for a living every single day. This is awful where the Leafs are right now, having to cover them right now. I am not looking forward to the next fucking 6-8 months, to be honest with you. It's brutal, man. I'm furious with what's going on in the Maple Leafs right now.
Yeah, if there's one thing we can hang our hat on for the last 3.5 years doing this podcast, we're going to give your honest opinion and assessment. And we've been that way and frank that way since day one. And whether the team's winning or the team's losing, and I think we've been fair in sort of our breakdown of where this team's headed right now. Our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. So we got Dan Bylsma coming on the podcast today. And of course, he's had stints in Seattle, Buffalo, infamously won a Stanley Cup with the 2009 Pittsburgh Penguins. I'd love to tap into the conversation about Sidney Crosby, how he handled scrutiny and how he bounced back as a leader, as a captain. That'll be a really fun conversation coming up in about 20 minutes here, Rosie.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, he's been there to see how it's done and how it looks. And I don't know, like it's a weird perspective because I've been like this fan and covering the team along with everyone else in Leafs Nation for a while. But I remember, I played pro for 13 years. I know what it's like behind the scenes, the day to day and the vibe in the locker room when you walk in the morning and take your shit off and get into your undergear and start doing your stuff in the gym and having your coffee and the meetings and the videos and getting your shit on and what the vibes are in practice and what the response is the day after a loss, the day after a win, the messages being sent to the boys, the meetings, the dinners, all that stuff. Like the vibes around the team can be so drastic. And I never noticed it anymore. And being so apparent and being in Toronto, I mean, the ups and downs and the friction in the air and the tension in the air all the time, especially when things aren't going well, is so apparent. And I think that if you ask Bylsma, what do you need to combat that and what do you need to fight against that and to keep those things in the right lane to be able to perform every night? And I can't imagine that his opinion is going to be anything else than Sidney Crosby is the template for that. He is leadership personified. If you want to know what to do or how to feel or how to act or how to be a pro, when you're on that team with that guy, it's very simple. You do what he does and you follow his lead. And that's why they've had so much success. And I mean, we look at this season and, you even raise the question of, what's Austin Matthews worth and can you shop him? I'm not wanting to unload Matthews for nothing and not get better. I want to entertain all kinds of ideas. Like, is there a hunger for him? What is a desperate GM that wants to make a huge splash and thinks what is he willing to give up? And it's going to be really hard to win that trade. And I'm not saying that I want them to do that. I'm saying keep everything on the table and keep an open mind. And what can this team do? And what have you seen? And take your experience with this group over 10 years and get some shit on the table and make some hard decisions. You look at Milwaukee Bucks are unloading, I can't even say
your
his
boy.
name, Giannis.
Your Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And he's like, I'm leaving. And they're like, oh, and we're shopping him. And he's like a 2 or 3 time MVP. It's like people do that all the time. But for some reason, Matthews is untouchable. I mean, like, why are they in this position? I mean, your number one guy, your superstar was not even on this planet for 2.5 months of your season, and it cost you your season. Like, does everyone just forget that? It's hard. Our other leader is acting like a child right now and doesn't seem to have any give a shit meter whatsoever. You go back to the beginning of the season too, where Stolarz called him out. It's because he's dog fucking it every game for weeks and just letting teams score and not even bothering to try. Like, do people forget about that? It's concerning, and it's the polar opposite of the Sidney Crosby mentality, and it concerns me, to be honest with you. I know how good those players are. I know how hard they are to replace, but 10 years, man. It's what do they have to show for it? Absolutely nothing. Like if a guy's untouchable, it's because he's done so much for your organization. I'm not seeing it. I think it's open for conversation and people lose their minds over it. It's kind of wild.
I love how Willie's going to swoop in, by the way, last minute, play a couple games, and jet off to Milan and play in the Olympics for the Swedish team. That should be a fun conversation for us. But yeah, Dan Bylsma is coming up in about 15 minutes. Late game tonight, which means Zach Phillips could work till 4 or 5 a.m. again. Just a byproduct of doing the Leafs Nation After Dark. Nevertheless, he's going to have you covered. So make sure you check out TLN After Dark after the game at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Want to Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. While you're at it, make sure you check out the LeafsNation.com. Some great, solid, entries on that website. I do a podcast recap daily, so make sure you check it out right now as you get set for this one against Seattle. This segment is brought to you by Table Fare and Social, your go-to spot for pregame bites, after-work drinks, and good times downtown. Conveniently located directly across from the arena and just steps from Union Station in the Metrolinx bus terminal. Table Fare and Social offers a wide selection of food, cold drinks, and space for larger groups. Family-friendly, fun, and ready to host your crew. Book a pregame party for your friends and colleagues at Table Fare and Social, located directly across from the arena. One thing I will be looking at tonight, you would assume it's going to be Anthony Stolarz. How does he respond? It was not a good first game back last week against Vegas, so he's got like 6 days off. Again, to the greater point, why the hell did he come back to play one game in 6 days? Anyways, how does he look tonight's my major question, Rosie.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. It didn't, he looked a little rusty. His rebound control, again, right, like understandably so after missing the amount of time that he missed.
Yeah.
I think they dropped the ball on that. I think that the consensus on that across everybody talking about it was pretty clear that especially in hindsight. And I know I was excited to see him, and I understood. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It definitely took me by surprise that they were chucking him in on that game on that night. Like, oh my goodness, this is quite the spot to throw him in. But you've seen him absolutely be the star of the game many, many times wearing that uniform where he comes in and he's just, when he's on, he is so, he makes you so comfortable because he's so square and so poised and so big, and his angles and his pushes and his everything about him, just he seems like it's very hard to beat him. He's a great goalie when he's on, and you're like, man, funny things happen with goaltenders. Sometimes they just go in and they're hot, and you're waiting for Stoli to do that. At the end of the day, 2020, that's hindsight. It didn't work out. It wasn't the right call. But I am interested to see how he looks today. I'm interested to see how the whole team looks. What's the vibe? What's the push? What's the compete level? What's motivating them? Again, real head scratcher, thinking they're going to be motivated at any point in time, really, the rest of the season, when the time to really be motivated and all the chips are on the table and it's time to make hay. They were nowhere to be found, and their season went down the drain because of it. So I don't know what to expect out of this one, but I imagine it'll probably be interesting, and there'll be some talking points that come out of it.
Yeah, for the next 29 games, lots of talking points to congregate about here on Leafs Want to Take. In support of Sick Kids, got a couple super chats to get to. YCF Baby writes in, with how shitty this team is doing, do you guys think you'll be doing a Team Canada after espresso? Can't really call it after dark. We will be scaling down our programming for the Olympic break. I think doing 2 to 3 shows a week. But yeah, we'll talk some Olympics for sure. It's unique too that the Maple Leafs have just 3 Olympians, right? And OEL going to the Olympics for Sweden, Nylander and Matthews, and that's it. But yeah, we'll be talking some Olympic hockey for sure.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't you? I hope it lines up. You always get so excited about it, and then when it's in Europe, it's difficult to watch with the time change. I mean, the
games are going to be. I'm sorry to alert you. The games are going to be at like 10:40 a.m. Eastern time, so 8:40 a.m. your time. So when you wake up with breakfast, you're going to be watching Olympic hockey.
Yeah, which is all right. I think the gold medal games, it's like insane, isn't it?
I haven't
like
looked.
In the more. It's a terrible time. It's like you have to do something crazy to even watch it. So it's kind of frustrating, but nonetheless, that's all that's going to be going on. Curious to what the boys are going to do during that break. I remember 2010. We had the Olympic break. It was only 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's crazy. Like, what a massive break in the middle of the hockey season, hence the schedule that they're playing right now. But it was pretty awesome. I mean, I went to Phoenix, played some golf, visited some friends. got away and had a little breather, and then obviously we're refreshed and ready to go. But I was all the more reason why I was wanting them to make something of that homestand. They went on the road trip before that. We said we need, I don't know, like, what do we say, 5 or 6 out of 8 points or something, and they got that. Could have been better. You look at the Vegas game and some other things where they dropped it, but they got what they needed to do to keep themselves in the fight. They needed to do that again at home where their record was solid, and they absolutely dropped the ball. But if they didn't, I was looking forward to that break to get a bunch of guys healed up, to get some refreshment. And I think a lot of teams will look considerably different after that break. They'll be kind of chomping at the bit. Everyone will be healthy. Everyone will be rehabbed up, and it'll just look different. They'll have a new lease on life, and it'll be this last push into the playoffs. All the more reason why that homestand stings so much.
Energized for sure after the Olympic break. Looking forward to some Olympic puck for sure. I mean, we got a dose of it last year at the Four Nations. A lot of fun, and we'll see what this Canadian team looks like this time around. In support of Sick Kids, TMB Sports writes in, so we're all in agreement that the team needs to sell. Knowing the Leafs and knowing who they are, they're going to go 4-0 on this road trip, and then management will be like, okay, we good, let's buy. I will say, like, I don't think you want to make any decisions right now. You have 4 games left. Yes, I think they're going to be sellers, but going to the break, you have 3 weeks off, as you just talked about. If you're the Brain Trust, man, you can have 9 to 5 days where you just talk about what the hell to do with this team. So I think in this scenario, patience is a virtue. I think to a point, the Leafs can control the trade market because there are less sellers than you would anticipate. A lot of teams think they're buyers. Hell, teams behind the Maple Leafs think they're buyers. So I'm very intrigued to see the way they navigate this. But as we talked about yesterday, I think the greater conversation to be had, who is leading you through this trade deadline? Is it Brad Treliving? Are you engaging long-term? He's got 1 year left in his contract. I really want to hear from Keith Pelly right now.
Yeah. What do you think's they love to kind of bury their releases in some other fluff. They're famous for the Friday at 5 p.m. press releases and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see, like you mentioned, getting together during the Olympic break. I mean, what a great time where everything stops. Yeah. And I imagine that boardroom will be full multiple times. Lots of meetings, lots of bullshits, lots of coffees, lots of dinners, lots of late night chats, lots going on. And I would be kind of surprised if we heard anything before that. Do you think they would come out with something like during the Olympics? I don't know.
Maybe.
It would be depending on where their head's at and who's making the decisions and how steadfast they are in their opinion on what's going on and where they want to go. Will probably dictate when that happens, but it'll be very interesting when we do get the news that someone from the top levels of MLSE is going to speak. There'll be a lot of ears on what is the message during this press conference or whatever it is, who's giving it, what's the takeaway from it. Everyone's waiting very, I don't know, probably not patiently, but I have no idea when they're going to do it, who's going to speak, what they're going to say. Maybe in Leafs fashion, they'll do one and kind of leave a whole bunch of questions unanswered and leave us all to speculate. But that's the next step, if you ask me, before we know what this team's going to do. I think someone's going to have to speak for sure.
Tell you what, if they lose this game tonight, my prediction is there's something that comes out tomorrow at 6:00 Eastern time where it's just tucked away. There's one game on the NHL slate and the Leafs are headed to Vancouver for a game against the worst team in the NHL. That's my prediction. But yeah, at some point in time, somebody's going to say something. We're monitoring. We're on high alert. So we got you covered here over at the Leafs Nation, at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. A few more super chats to get to. Rayhan writes in, I would take Seattle's assistant coach for Berube. So that again, we're pointing fingers. Whose fault is it right now? I guess it's Craig Berube's fault. Did see a really good meme. I think it was by Lise Poppy, friend of the show. The panic meter with the scar on the Frankenstein scar. That got me. I laughed at that, I'll be honest.
Yeah, that was solid. You can, I don't know. I mean,
what the hell happened in that gym, man? That is my biggest question of the Maple Leaf season.
It looks like like, what is even shaped that way on a round head to have a round scar like that? What is even like, did it hit him so good and flat like a plate that it like pressure cut and burst the whole forehead? I mean, I don't know what Chief's forehead is like.
Dude, he
but
could have been
it is
such a
wild.
hero if he came out of nowhere and maybe lied and said, you know what, I got jumped by 6 dudes and they beat the shit out of me, but I got a couple licks in on them. Imagine that for like a polarizing, galvanizing moment for this market. Probably not the team. They don't respond to anything, but I think that would have been elite. Like it's weird that he just showed up one day. They had a day off and he looked like he got mauled by a bear, you know?
Yeah, it is. It's a wild look. I'm not, he's always been a tough man. He looks even tougher now, but I mean, lesser men, I think, would take a week or two off probably, but it's not Chief's style. And I mean, when you talk about his press conference and his interviews and the frustration you kind of start to see on him, you can tell that he is dying to get the intensity out of this group, and it just doesn't come. And you can see the frustration on his face. I mean, we watch what it looks like when they're committed, right? With that 10-game rip after Christmas, like that's the formula. That's what it looks. You can hang with anybody. And it's like they're just not able to access that. And they're not, honestly, it's like they're not willing. They don't bring anything. We're talking about Scott Lawton like he's this force out there. He has a handful of points and he's like the fourth line guy. And we're talking about him like he's this monster. And why is that? Because he shows a level of compete, because he cares. He gets mad. He gets intense. He plays the game the right way. He can change a game and he jumps off of the screen to you. And no one else does that often enough. It's like, you need a push right now. You need to be pissed off. You need to empty the tank, and they just never do it. And you can tell Craig's frustrated by it. The fans are frustrated by it. It's the story of this season. Just being flat and not having any answers to what needs to happen out there during the season. And I mean, that homestand is a perfect example of it. It's the story of the season, man. It's so frustrating, and you can start to see it in Craig's interviews, because I think the guy knows what it looks like and is doing everything he can to get it out of that group, and they just won't give it to him.
Another guy who knows what it looks like, today's guest. The following interview is brought to you by Hurley and Levelwear. Golf is evolving, and Hurley and Levelwear is right at the heart of the cultural shift as athletes from across pro sports embrace the game and bring fresh energy to the course. Inspired by Hawaiian and coastal lifestyle vibes, Hurley and Levelwear translates that feel into sustainable, high-performance apparel built for today's athlete. The collection is live now. Visit levelwear.com to shop polos, hoodies, hats, casuals, and much, much more. That's Hurley and Levelwear as we bring in today's guest, 2009 Stanley Cup champion. It is Dan Bylsma. Dan, how are you?
I'm very good. You guys got me?
We got you. The connection's a little faint. If you want to try to maybe reconnect quickly, I know you're on the move here and appreciate you taking some time. We'd love to do this with you. So we'll try to circle back in a second. But Dan Bylsma joining us here on Leafs Morning Take, Rosie. And I think I just want to tap into sort of the direction, the leadership qualities. How do you approach this game as well if you're Craig Berube, right? Like, yeah, it's one thing that this team has dropped 5 in a row all on home ice, but how do you respond after? That's the bigger question for me.
Well, I'm curious as to what the vibe is in that locker room and what the message is. I mean, obviously outside of it, everyone's called it a season. I imagine that the fact that they still have close to 30 games to play, I think they're still going to be bought into, we can do this and let's try to make something special happen. The pressure's off. Let's throw caution to the wind. We have nothing to lose. It'll be that type of mentality. I don't know if that'll get the guys going or what, but again, with this game tonight, I have no idea what to expect. You got a hungry team over there in Seattle. You're going to play a lot of teams who are playing meaningful games right now, and you're probably going to get their best, and they're probably going to be licking their lips at the Leafs for a number of different reasons. I mean, when the Leafs are good, teams are licking their chops and coming into our barn and have all kinds of motivations, and they're ready to rock and roll. So I don't think that's going to change at all. It can't be embarrassing. It can't be a mail-in. And like, it's just ridiculous to even say that at that level in that league. But like, if they mail it in and look like they mail it in on the most important games of the season, how the hell am I supposed to expect them to be chomping at the bit in any meaningful way to play quality hockey in that league against the opponents they're going to face with not much on the table? So head scratcher. I got questions. I'm going to be watching closely, saying what does this team look like? Who's leading the charge? What's the attitude and what's the energy level? But again, how do you put a lot of gravity behind the idea that they're going to be buzzing or have anything to go for when they've showed you what they've showed you already this season.
It's true, and we'll see what some type of lineup changes they make as well. I know Marshall Rafai with the team. Does Quillen come back in? We think Anthony Stolar is going to start this game. I believe we do now have Dan Bylsma. Dan, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate for reconnecting here. What would the approach be if you're Craig Berube after just a terrible homestand?
Sometimes the road's a good thing. I would say that. I think we're approaching the point in the season now where games are amplified. We're looking at the standings every single day. We can see, we're at 57 points. We're 5-6 out of it. There's 4 or 5 teams that we're in the mix with or have to jump over. And so it's easy to find, at least from a coach's standpoint, it's easy to find meaning to each game now, because I think at this point in time, each game has a significant meaning as to jumping in the standings, getting back in it in the Leafs case. So you're going on the road, you got a chance to grab 2 points, to establish a good road trip, and you got some room to go. You got to jump some teams to get back into this thing.
And Dan, you've coached a lot of different hockey teams and some of the best to do it, led by Sidney Crosby. And when you have a team that has all the right stuff, what's the contrast and what are the differences behind the scenes from those teams that do things well and then the teams that struggle when you're trying to motivate and get them going, I think is a big problem in Toronto. What are some of the differences in those good teams and then the not so good ones?
Yeah, I think, going into our conversation, I think the eyes on the Leafs are the biggest eyes and the most eyes on the Leafs. And it always seems to produce, whether it's true or not, it just feels like, I don't want to necessarily say this word, but it produces a circus type atmosphere within the room, without the room, in the media. Different things are going on. A lot of things are going on. It's always a lot to digest as a group and as a team. And I think as a good coach and good teams kind of drown out that noise, focus on the group, focus on what's going on within the room and for the team, and do a good job of kind of distancing themselves from that. Teams that don't do a good job of that are constantly dealing with the noise, constantly dealing with us again, lack of a better word, the circus that it produces, and you see it all around the league. I think it's great. It's tremendous. It's a large amount for the Leafs because everyone's watching and everyone's talking. But the teams that deal with that the best, I think, are the team that over the long haul have the consistency in their seasons to get to the playoffs and move on from there.
You're not wrong. Like, we started the show today by talking about the Ottawa Senators and the fact that they win against Colorado last night. Last time I checked, they're tied in points with the Leafs in the standings, but it's weirdly optimistic there where it's doom and gloom here in Toronto. So they have 29 games left. They're 8 points back. Are you ready to pronounce the Maple Leafs dead, or do you think there's still a glimmer of hope here?
It's a tall task, and it's when you look at the number of teams that they're tied with right now or are right around them. It's a lot. It's a lot of teams to think that you're going to jump over all of them because you're playing each other, 3-point games. It's a lot. Having said that, it's not never been done before. It's quite possible. But having said that, you gotta win hockey games, and most coaches, I think, you break it down into the raw hard facts and you're like, we got 35 games left and we need to win. In the Leafs case, I haven't done it, but the numbers that you have to win to get to the 95-point range are pretty daunting when you look at it. But having said that, you just got to go out and take the approach that you win this game and take care of business and get on to the next one. And if they do that, you could find yourself 2, 3, 4 points out of it here shortly, and now you're in the mix, and it becomes a battle to the end.
And what's been your opinion on this team so far this year? Obviously, an abysmal start. They got hot there after Christmas for a while and showed what they're capable of, and then when it's do or die time, trying to collect points before the playoff or the Olympic break, they just went completely flat. What are you seeing out of the Toronto Maple Leafs this year?
A lot of inconsistency. A couple different storylines in that inconsistency. Austin Matthews not necessarily starting out the season, 20, 25 games where we all think he has been in the past and where we all think he can be. He's come on late. The goaltending situation and the injuries. From an outsider looking in, looking at their roster compared to last year, it's just a little less daunting. It's not. I don't think it's as deep. I don't think they're as dynamic. And when it comes to the lineup, that doesn't mean they can't win games, and doesn't mean they can't be a good team. It's just a little bit different path and a little bit different road they have to establish to become a good team to win hockey games, and they've been in that struggle. And we've seen some inconsistencies in it. We've seen some times when they look like a pretty good hockey team and have reeled off some games. So that's their fight, that's their battle, and they got to get back into that. And that wouldn't help if Austin Matthews continues on a tear, as be the player he can be. But again, having put their lineup on the board last year and you're playing against them, it was daunting. It was a daunting team with skill and speed and offensive ability. It's just a little bit less daunting of a team to see on the roster before the game. So they're fighting that. They're fighting how to become a good team a different way, and that's happening. I would say they're in that fight. Continued success to them, luck to them, I'll say.
Fair enough. Dan, you've been around for a while, and Craig Berube the other night you used a card, right? And that's calling out the team, calling out some players. He called out specifically the team D and the crease. I'm just curious, a veteran like you, Chief's a vet too around these parts, he's been around a while. How do you approach the media in that facet when calling out players as opposed and compared to maybe 10, 15 years ago? I think you have to be way more delicate these days. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, way more delicate, I would say, is a good way to put it. I'm of the opinion, not putting this on anyone else or any other coach, I am not going to say something to the media that I haven't already said to my team. That's just not. I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't feel like it's something I would want to do is call the players out with the media, using the media to do it. I have already talked to the individual, or already talked to the team in such a way, and it's not the first time they're going to hear it from the media. So, Chief's a pretty direct guy, and he has some high expectations for how his team should play in the compete level and the battle level. I can be rest assured it wasn't the first time his players heard what Chief said to the media.
And Dan, obviously after this weekend, finger pointing has become the theme here this week. Everyone's trying to figure out what's wrong with the Leafs and why they're in this position, from the top MLSE to the assistant coaches and the depth, leadership, goalies, everything you could think of. People are pointing their fingers. Where do you see this team coming up short here this year?
If we talk about the window of a team, I think the Leafs were in a certain window the last couple of years with the big four core and Marner and obviously Nylander and Matthews. I think this team changed from that group to a new group, or at least not all of that group back. Marner obviously moved on, and so the team is in a development. Clearly, from the outside, it's in a different development stage from the group, and they have to try to figure out with the new group without Marner how they're going to be a good team. So I think they're in a different window. I think that's clear. I think there was, the eyes and ears and the people talking. You can say that maybe they wanted Mitch out of town, and maybe it was time for him to go. I've heard that conversation, but at the end of the day, he's a 100-point guy. He's a great player. Every other team in the league would want to get a Mitch Marner on their team, and the Leafs exited from that window with that group of guys, and had to establish a new group, a new team, and a new way to do it. So they're going through that, and that's that's part of, there's 32 teams in the National Hockey League. They all go through different phases and different groups, and each year you have to find a new way. That's what the Leafs are doing. And, the story, it could change dramatically. It could change dramatically in the next, end of the season, after the Olympics and into the break, and we'd be saying a lot of different things. I mean, I look at the Florida Panthers. The year they started their run of going to the Stanley Cup Finals, they get to the playoffs on the final day of the season. It can't go without recognizing that it's a really difficult thing, and the Leafs aren't out of it yet. They could get in it, and maybe this rendition of the Leafs is one that can get out of the first and second round of the playoffs.
Dan, it's a stupid league. I think for years people have been using the coaches as scapegoats. And then you look conversely at this year, for some reason, there's just been one coaching change as Bones takes over for Columbus, and he comes out of retirement, and they've been outstanding. They win again last night. Can you explain what it feels like to be somebody like Craig Berube right now, where things are not going well? There's a lot of tension. It's part of the market. It's part of where you coach right now. Obviously, if you're Craig Berube and you bought into this, but what does it feel like when there's so much pressure every game to win right now?
Well, I think the words "the grind" and has been used a lot, and that's what you're in. And you're in the grind whether you're winning or losing, whether you've won a ton or not won a ton. You're always in that grind, and so I think the noise gets loud outside of the room. The noise gets loud in the media at different times about different things. And as a coach, as a leader of the team, you try to drown out, you try to become impervious to the noise that's outside the room and outside the group, because it's not all true. It's not all right. It can change with the next day, with the next dawn, with the next game. So you try to insulate yourself, insulate the group from the noise, focus on what you're doing with the group and the team, and try to make it all about that. So you do your best. I mean, I think I was watching an interview with a coach who's no longer with his team. It's in a different sport, but he said, I didn't listen to the radio, I didn't listen to social media, but I kind of knew, because my friends and the people around me would say, they'd ask if you've been listening to so-and-so, have you been listening to X, have you been listening to Twitter? And just by them asking, that there's a lot of noise going around you. So I'm Chief kind of feels it, Chief kind of hears it, but you do your best to insulate not only yourself, but insulate the team from the noise and get focused on what the task at hand and what you want to do.
Yeah, and Dan, just to wrap, the cherry on top is that he looks like he was mauled by a bear. He claims that he was in a gym. What was your reaction when you saw that video and that picture?
I thought it was AI, to be honest. Like, I saw him. I saw the interview with the hat on and the black eye, and I didn't see the whatever that is that happened. And then the next day, I saw him I saw a picture of him, a still photo of him. I thought it was AI. I'm like, that can't possibly be true. That could never happen to Chief. He's the toughest guy in the world. Like, he got his worst beating by a barbell in a gym, or whatever happened. I don't know, but that was amazing. Yes.
Oh, wild stuff. I could never have, in my wild dream. Like, I mean, I would have just lied and been like, yeah, I got jumped by 6 dudes and galvanized the market. But it's always like a mystery with injuries in this market,
Yeah. It was a lower body injury for sure.
Day to day is what they're saying. Hey, you're the best. Safe travels. Thank you so much for your time. Look forward to seeing you back in the NHL soon, okay?
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dick.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Take care. That's Dan Bylsma, and I shared my attachment to Disco Dan. Remember, I brought up that I randomly bumped into him in Rome, on the streets of Rome, in 2011 or 12, and we've kept a friendship. We've kept in touch ever since, man. It's a pretty cool story, because I always recall it was you remember the summer that the Flyers signed Shea Weber to an offer sheet?
Yeah.
That I literally, so me and my buddy were in Rome. We're on a Euro trip, and we bumped into Dan Bylsma, his then little kid, and his wife. And we actually broke the news to Dan Bylsma, who is the coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, that Shea Weber has signed an offer sheet with Philadelphia. And he's like, oh shit, like my phone's off. I got to talk to Ray Shero, the great Ray Shero was the GM. So like that always stood out. And Dan's got a crazy memory. He remembered, obviously my time doing media. So it's pretty cool to have that connection,
Yeah, it's cool. He's I just remember him as kind of the coach of the Penguins when they won their first cup, and with Sid and him just being at the helm of there and being one of the premier coaches in the world, really. And it's kind of funny. Just kind of a side story. I was a kid and he had written a book called "So You Want to Play in the NHL," and my mom had got it somewhere and put it in our bathroom, and I was reading it. And I don't know what the book was totally about, but it started off like talking about the odds of making it and how many people play in Canada and elsewhere, and everyone wants to, but how many, and the odds of doing it. And it was like this bummer. I was like, why did this guy read this book? Like, you made it, and now you're gonna like crush everyone else. And that wasn't what the book was about, I'm sure. But I always remembered that name. I didn't even know who he was at the time, but it fired me up going, I'm gonna show you, and someone has to play in that league. So why the hell would you try to make it seem hard? And I had a teacher tell me the same thing, and I always had this chip on my shoulder about it. And I do remember that book, being in our bathroom, reading it and taking that from it, and it like motivating me, saying, well, I'll show you, kind of thing. And then Bylsma turned out to be the coach that he did and everything else, and had all the success. So that's what I'm reminded of from being a kid, actually. But you're just talking to him, you can see that he's a hockey mind. I think he's had a lot of success and a ton of experience. I don't think he'll be out of the NHL for very long.
It's on my radar, I'll be honest. If things continue to go south and maybe they clean sweep the staff, Dan Bylsma, maybe he runs the power play. Maybe he's part of the Leafs coaching staff moving forward. And it's always good to tap into sort of coaches who have won too. I think there's always that attachment. I know it's been a long ass time. I know there's been many stops in between, but he still won. He knows how to get to that summit. And I think painfully, that's probably why the Maple Leafs have hung on for dear life when it comes to Craig Berube and the ups and downs, because he knows what it takes. And ultimately, we've discussed this so often. I actually did a hit on CP24 earlier today, and we talked about sort of blame and who's feeling the most pressure. I'm like, the least pressure is on the players. I mean, this has been a story for a decade. They could not care less. What does it matter to them? They get paid whether they win or lose. The pressure's on the GM. The pressure's on the coach. And Rosie, it starts tonight. They're visiting Seattle. I still have a shitty taste in my mouth back on October 18th. Remember, I went to that game in Toronto. I missed the first period. It took forever to get in the building that night, and they lost 4-3 in OT. Shane Wright of Burlington, Ontario was tremendous. But I will add the Maple Leafs all-time 7-1-1 against the Seattle Kraken.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see, man. I don't know. Just to go back, like, we're at this point now, and you look at the playoff losses that they've racked up before last year and the disappointment, and think of those elimination games and the game sevens, and the trap games where they're supposed to be up for it and they just don't. And everyone was like, we need a coach that's going to have them play harder and play with more intensity, and they need to be accountable for how they behave and what they do out there and their commitment to defense, and play a little bit more rugged and all that stuff. And they hired Craig Berube, and it was fairly unanimous on like, this is going to be so good for this team. And that hasn't changed. But the sticky point with it to me is just the players just won't adopt it. Like, okay, say you hired Bylsma and he comes in and say they play a little bit different of a system, okay, they play a little different system, and now everything's changed and they're just a monster team. Like, it doesn't work that way. And I'm not in love with the culture of this team. Everything we've seen this season is like the epitome of that, but it's kind of like times 5. Usually they can get by on the regular season and chip enough wins away to be in the playoffs for 10 years. And that's a good thing. But we saw it so many times that they needed the change and they needed to create this different identity. Like, everyone was pretty much on board with that, but it's so easy after with a fact to point your finger and say, seeing this. And then it's like, okay, you want to go back to the days that don't work. I can't get my head around that. It worries me that it's going to be the same story. Sure, throw a different guy behind there and people think it's like magic or something. if you don't have the commitment and the leadership and the group that's going to do the right things that are being asked by any coach out there, it's just all for naught, if you ask me. So when, I don't know, this Berube thing, and maybe they do fire him, and okay, I'm not holding my breath for it to be this different team out there because a different coach went back there. I mean, that was Babcock. And then, okay, let's go to a Keefe style of coach. Oh, no, let's go to a Berube style coach. Okay, let's go back to this style of coach. There's one common denominator here, and it's kind of driving me nuts that they're doing the ring around the rosy, and fans think that this is all on Berube. I can't get on board with that, to be honest with you.
Mike Babcock was fucking right. Okay, that is everything you just said. That's sort of my confirmation. Like he was right. You're so right. I think the breakdown is perfect because it's just like banging your head against the wall. Like at some point in time, they've tried different things. GM, president, head coach. When is it a personnel change? And I don't think Marner was enough. For me, and we'll have this combo. We have so much time over the next couple months, clearly. Well, dude, it's part of the nature. Like I think you bringing it up is fair because, like, okay, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fire Berube. He's not the right guy, the wrong guy. I'd love to go back and look at people, what they had to say, like on social media. I'll never find this. What they had to say when they brought in Berube. What a great hire. Awesome coach. They're finally going to win it all. To what they're saying now, this guy can't coach. I think it's such an overrated conversation. And you're right. They're going to bring in somebody fresh and new, and he's going to figure out the same shit that he can't get the value that he can out of any of the star players. So it starts there. And that's why I subscribe more than ever to this convo. I know there's some pushback there by Dan Bylsma about the star players. I think you have to be open to anything. It's not one thing to say that. It's now another to go out there and actually pursue opportunities where, you know, Riley's like a non-negotiable. Like you have to move on. You have to find a taker. It's not going to happen now, by the way. That's an off-season move, but it's a conversation you need to have. Like if Morgan Riley comes back next year, got some serious problems with this team, but you have to be open to those conversations and reaching out and saying, hey, we'll work with you here. What do you want to do? Do you want to be a Leaf? Again, there's just so many moving parts, but this is the first time I felt this way where it's like, it's not working with these guys.
I don't know. It's like caught between a rock and a hard place, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm not interested in making a rash decision. And, you know, if you're on the team that losing Marner has hurt you, I mean, and there's a bunch of different ways to look at that. Well, should you have re-signed him for $13 million for multiple years, or should you have traded him back when he had no trade clause? Or there's all kinds of different opinions, and it is what it is. But I'm not interested in trading Austin Matthews and then losing that trade, which can be really hard to win that trade.
Yeah.
And then having a team with some different pieces spread around like there was after this summer, and thinking you're going to get better, and then not having anyone that can go out and get 3 points for you or be that game breaker. I'm not interested in that at all. But it's this rock and a hard place. Like we're here with this core group, or, you know, there's 2 guys that are, you know, on my mind lately about, can you keep putting pieces around these guys and expecting any different? I mean, and I know Willie's, you know, I know how good they can both be. I'm well aware of that. But it's just, you know, again, my biggest fear is that you move a couple pieces around and try again next year, and you get these flat performances, and the fans are more up for the game and inspired for a run than the players even are. And you just see that blank stare on their face, and you hear their comments after the game about, oh, I thought we played pretty good and that was a lot of fun after getting your shit pushed in. Like, I'm not interested in that anymore. The frustration and the who's leading this thing, and why can't we why aren't they ready to play? And why do they keep downplaying these big things? Why aren't they the ones leading the charge going, this one's fucking huge. We are ready for this thing. It's a big game. We got to be ready. We're going to start on time, and the boys are preparing big time, and we know what's at stake here. Like, that's what all the NFL guys say. That's what's wrong with talking about the moment being huge. They just downplay everything to the point where they're fucking asleep. And it's like, okay, downplay the whole season, downplay every situation, downplay every challenge that you come up to, and see what you're left with. It's this right here. And I'm tired of that. And I'm worried that there's going to be more of that if they don't change the reasons that that's constantly happening. And I know they've had good teams in the past, but they haven't done screw all. They've done nothing. They've won 2 series and that's it. Like, who thinks that's successful and that you are absolutely married to that? I don't, and whatever. Fuck me. There's so many things that you could change that people would think would make this team better. It makes your mind spin, and in a cap era, it's very difficult to do so. So, again, more reason on why I'm really interested in when MLSE finally speaks, what that message is going to be.
You started a movement there. I think you created a word, frucking. So it's a mix between fuck and frick. I like that, though. Maybe the kids can use that.
Well, you try not to swear too much, and you try to throw the frick out.
We've been good with that, though. We've been better this year. We've been better with that. Like, I noticed the after dark things got astray, but for the most part, from day one to now, we've improved a lot.
The after dark does its own thing. They go
every
Joe
third
Rogan
word.
style, 4 hours just reeling about everything else. And
how many F-bombs do you think Zach throws in a 4.5 hour show?
Yes, I don't know how many are thrown out there, but after 3, the game, you're more fired up. You know what I mean? So I get it.
Yeah, it's fair. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Just to wrap on that conversation, I think the big word that sticks out for me is consistency or lack thereof. Like, we talk so much about DNA change and identity. The Maple Leafs haven't had an identity for like 10 years. Like, what when you think back to the Maple Leafs, and yeah, they had these grand and wicked regular seasons, but is there an identity that you would attach to, like, similarly like a Colorado or a Carolina or a Florida, where more times than not, you know the type of team that's going to show up for that game? And I don't know if I'm misspeaking, but the last couple of years, even under Keefe, where this team was getting 110 points a season, I had no clue. There was no repetition. There hasn't been any repetition, no consistency to this team. And that's wherein lies the bigger, grander problem to me, Rosie.
Yeah, I mean, to me, their identity has been, when it's easy, you can produce, and when it's hard, you go into a shell. I mean, that's what it's been. You can there's easy games sometimes when you have a ton of talent and you have a bunch of firepower. You can cheat a little bit, and you can, only play on one side of the puck, and you can, not give your all out effort. You cannot finish your checks. You can forecheck lightly. You can back check lightly, and you can get away with it. And they've rattled off points, and they can beat a bunch of teams in the regular season. But like, you can set your watch to the fact that when it gets hard and you're up against a team that's clicking and that plays a certain way, and that is every single team on every single game in the playoffs, this team has always been a step behind, and they're looking around going, what is this? This is whoa, this makes me uncomfortable. That's what their identity has been.
Yeah.
Really good and talented, and can rattle off a bunch of points when things are easy, and do special things and get all their cookies and their empty netter points and all that shit. And when it gets really hard and you really need to be like, okay, now our metal is going to be tested, they fail that test, and they always have. And that is the problem that we are left with here. They tried to make a change moving on from Marner, and they hamstrung themselves and they couldn't get anything for him. He left them kind of high and dry. Like, Nick Waugh is, I'm sorry, not going to do it. And I'm not interested in doing more of that. I know that much. You got Austin Matthews for 2 more years, and we'll see again where they go with it. But I don't envy the position of the powers that be in the Maple Leafs organization right now. It is one hell of a predicament they're in, and I can't wait to see what they do and what decisions they decide to make. I hope they don't. I don't think they can afford to tiptoe, though.
No, I tend to agree with you. We got a couple more super chats before we wrap here. We'll start with my main man, Parcel Pappy. He's an absolute beauty, lives in my area. Actually, delivers in my area, I should say. He says, Leafs are cooked, stick a fork in them. Then he adds, give me Stamkos back, pretty please. He's talking about fantasy hockey. This guy dropped Stamkos. I picked him up, and tough decision for you, my man. So appreciate the intake there. And your boy, Captain Thunder 8284, is back after he told you to apologize yesterday to not only Mitch Marner, but Paul Marner. He pipes up, sending us $5 more in support of Sick Kids, which we love. Why does Rosie still refuse to apologize to Mitch and his father for his hate? Leafs lost without Mitch. You were wrong. Apologize. Be a man. Say sorry.
Feels like we're talking to my 9-year-old trying to get an
6-year-old.
apology out of them, and they just refuse. No, I don't think.
I think
don't
you
think I-
prolong this, and he'll send more super chats as the year goes on. Just don't
sure.
apologize.
I'm going to help out sick kids here and refuse to apologize. I don't think I have anything to apologize for. You saw what Mitch was in that game in his return to Toronto. Not a shot on net till like the 15-minute mark of the third.
Nothing.
That's what you're getting out of him when you need it all, and that's what we saw. But to each their own. Everyone can have their opinion.
Yep, sick road trip. They got pounded in Ottawa after that game, then lost to Montreal in OT. Now back home are the Vegas Golden Knights. And I still, for the life of me, don't comprehend that act where you wake up consciously, you go watch a YouTube show, one of the best ones out there, in my opinion. I'm biased. But you're like, I'm going to send in a super chat, and I'm going to tell this adult male who played in the National League and beat the shit out of people for a living to apologize to not only my friend's kid, but my friend, okay? Apologize. Anyways, it's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. Leafs are going to win tonight. This is what they do. They own Seattle. I know they lost earlier this year. I think they're going to win the next couple games. People are going to say some stuff. They're going to win tonight. Money line, Leafs money line, book it.
You're taking her, eh? Well, if you're going to do that, I might as well juice it up with, I'll take them on the puck line plus 230. Ooh. I mean, the money line's minus 10. They're even Steven on that. You're giving juice away no matter what you take. And I like that plus money. I think if they're going to win, they might as well grab an empty netter or something and get me plus 230 on the moolah. So that's where I'm at.
I like the spot. I mean, Seattle, this is the 6th and final game, I believe, of this homestand. And then they head out for 1, 2, 3 in a row to wrap up before the Olympic slate. I mean, you've played in the league. You have a tendency of looking ahead. Who do I have coming up on Saturday night? Vegas Golden Knights. Anaheim on Tuesday. You got LA Wednesday. So maybe a bit of a trap game for the Seattle Kraken, who I think are the better team, but might lose this game tonight. So we'll leave the conversation at that. Yeah, I think Seattle's a better team than the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's where we're at in this season, Rosie.
Yuck. I don't like it, but all we can do is watch and see what they got. I wouldn't be surprised if they had an inspiring effort tonight for some reason.
Will they get a power play opportunity? It's also a question du jour. Again, there's so much conversation around that because, they don't do much to draw penalties, but it's actually sickening because it's not just this season thing. It's been a decade long of frustration. Why can't this team get power plays? Like, watch the game the other night, 0 power play opportunities. It happens a lot. It really does.
I mean, just look at the numbers. They're in the bottom of the league for calls drawn, so it just is what it is. They're at the very bottom handful of teams to get power play opportunities. And I don't know, with the power play this year, with the exception of a blip on the radar, it has been kind of abysmal. And I think that the way this team's built, that should be your powerhouse. That should be one of your strengths. It's kind of another one of those frustrating things in Leafland. I guess we're getting used to that this season.
Fuck, this team sucks. 29 games left. This will be a lot of fun. Leafs in Seattle. On we go. Now we go. Premature webaculation. All the phrases you want to use. Rosie, good stuff today. We'll talk tomorrow. Gord Selleck hasn't been by for a while. He's going to drop by. Former GM of the Maple Leafs. Does some great work over for Sportsnet. Still freelancing. And also with SiriusXM NHL Network Radio. This guy loves the Maple Leafs more than life itself. He's lived it. He's worked for the team. Just wants to see a Stanley Cup. That's it. That's all. Obviously, too much to ask for, but Gord Selleck coming up tomorrow, Rosie.
Sounds good. Look forward to it. We'll see you guys there.
Sounds good. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit LeafsNation.com. Thanks to Dan Bylsma. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care. Fuck. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.